Hi everyone, Matt Watson here from CarWow. Now you might think that naming a car is pretty easy, but actually it's a lot harder than you may think. For a start, you've got to pick something that no one has used before. It also has to sound good, and it has to work in a whole load of different languages. And on top of all that, you've got to please your marketing department as well. It's not easy. All this means that sometimes you end up with weird names with even stranger meanings. So I found some of the strangest, funniest, and just plain stupidest car names for you to enjoy now. So here's a CarWow list of the weirdest car names and what they really mean.
Buying a new car? Head to CarWow to get offers from the UK's top dealers. carwow.co.uk, the car buying comparison site.
In case you failed English at school, I'll just explain to you that an acronym is when you take the first letters of several words and use them to make a new word, like LOL or OMG. Well, car makers love acronyms. Sometimes they make sense, like the Toyota CHR. Now that stands for Compact High Rider, which is sort of what the car is. And there's the Honda HRV, which stands for High Rider Vehicle. Sometimes brands will throw a number in for good measure, like the Toyota RAV4. The RAV bit stands for Recreational Activity Vehicle, and the 4 stands for four-wheel drive. So far so good. But then Toyota decided to change what RAV meant when they launched the latest version of the RAV4. Now it stands for Robust Accurate Vehicle. There are actually loads of car names that you probably didn't realise were acronyms. For instance, the Nissan Leaf. So Leaf apparently stands for Leading Environmentally Friendly Affordable Family Car. So Nissan working in a few hyphens to make the word Leaf work. Otherwise it should strictly be Lefafc, because it's L-E-F-A-F-C. SMART is another name that you probably didn't know is an acronym. Well, it's sort of an acronym. The original SMART was a project Mercedes did with Swatch, the people who make kind of funky watches. So SMART actually stands for Swatch Mercedes Art. S-M-Art. Smart. Yeah. Sometimes car makers pick a name that sounds good in English, but it might cause a bit of a stir in other countries, like when Toyota made the MR2. MR2 actually stands for Midship Runabout Two-Seater, which sort of makes sense. It was a small mid-engine two-seater sports car, and I guess you can use it as a runabout. But they had big problems when they tried to sell the car in France, because when you say MR2 in French, it becomes merde, which means, that's probably got bleeped. So it means the swear word for poo. No wonder they took off the 2 and called it just the NR in France. Now Audi had exactly the same problem when they tried to sell their new e-tron SUV in France, because e-tron means turd in French. Why does it seem that every word means poo in French? It's actually a good car, the e-tron, but you're never going to sell any with a name like Turd, are you? Oh look, I bought the new Turd. Would you like a go of my turd? Do you like the look of my turd? Anyway, click on the pop-up banner up there to watch my in-depth review of the Audi e-tron. Anyway, it's not just the French language that's tripping at car makers, it's the Spanish language as well. You see, Chevrolet got into a bit of bother when they launched the Nova. Now, Nova sounds pretty cool. It makes you think of a supernova, a star that's exploding. But in Spanish, Nova means it doesn't go. That's like calling it the Chevy broken down. No wonder they barely sold any in Mexico. Amazingly, that is not the worst example. Hyundai really screwed up when they picked the name Kona for their small SUV. Hyundai says the car is named after the Kona district in Hawaii. Don't know why they did that, but hey, it's innocent enough. But Kona is Portuguese slang for a lady garden. Yeah. Animals are a great source of cool car names. Ford especially loves naming its cars after animals. There's the Mustang, the Puma, and the Cougar. They're all really cool names. But Porsche has been at it too. Cayman is probably the most obvious. It comes from the caiman, which is a small crocodile, though it's actually spelt with an I instead of a Y. A macaque is also a type of animal. It comes from an Indonesian word which means tiger, although Porsche says that macaque also means suppleness, power, fascination, and dynamics. Now you might not think it, Taycan is also another animal. It sounds like a made-up word, but it actually means soul of a spirited young horse in various Turkic languages. I kind of like it, and it sort of makes sense when the middle of the Porsche badge actually has a horse on it. However, the way Porsche's named its first ever electric car sort of reminds me of those Liam Neeson movies, especially when people mispronounce it as Taken instead of Taycan. Now, if you don't pronounce it correctly, I will look for you, I will find you, and I will kill you. Anyway, VW's been getting in on the action as well with some funny naming. Only they decided that one animal wasn't enough because the Tiguan is actually named after two animals. Tig comes from tiger and Iguan comes from iguana. I suppose it fits with all the other VW SUVs beginning with the letter T, like the Touareg and the T-Roc, but I don't know why they chose those two animals. I think it's just a bit of a marketing odds fudge, really. However, the worst animal name to ever be used has to be the Mitsubishi Starion. I know it doesn't sound like it's named after an animal, but it is. It was originally going to be called the Stallion, you know, to go with the Mitsubishi Colt, which is the name of a young male horse. Trouble is, the Japanese language doesn't really differentiate very well between the letter R and the letter L, so Stallion ended up becoming Starion by accident. Luckily, they came up with a clever comeback to cover this up because according to Mitsubishi, Starion actually means Star of Orion. Yeah, nice save, guys, but we're not buying it. Some manufacturers don't fancy naming their cars after animals. They prefer to name them after the weather instead. The most obvious one is the old Nissan Sunny, but VW likes to do it too. The old Bora was named after a cold seasonal wind from Croatia, and the Sirocco got its name from a warm Mediterranean wind. Maserati loves windy names as well. The Ghibli is named after the Arabic word for a wind that blows in from the Libyan desert. And the old Khamsin is named after an Egyptian spring wind. Sounds like a load of hot air to me. Some manufacturers like to keep it simple and give their cars names that all start with the same letter. Aston Martin sort of does this. You see, besides the DB models, all their car names begin with the letter V, like Virage, Vulcan and Valkyrie. Virage is actually French and it means turn, which makes sense when you're talking about sports cars. And Vulcan is the name of the Roman god of fire, which is an awesome name. And a Valkyrie is a mythical female Viking warrior. But what happens when Aston runs out of cool words beginning with V? Are we going to end up with a car that's called the Aston Martin Vajazzle? I hope not. Some foreign brands name their cars using random English words that just sound good in their native language. This happens a lot in Japan, where anything Western is sort of seen as being cool or different. Sometimes it works out okay, like the Toyota Century or the Nissan Skyline. Those names don't really mean anything, but they still sound pretty cool. But there's nothing cool about the Mazda Bongo Friendy, which was a camper van, or the Mitsubishi Delica Space Gear, which was a weird off-road MPV thing. The Honda Life Dunk is another car with a terrible name. And why the heck did Daihatsu call one of its tiny K cars the Naked? Most of these cars never got sold in the UK, but I kind of like the idea of driving around in an Isuzu mysterious utility wizard. That's what the Vauxhall Frontier was actually called when it was sold in Japan. I mean, what a load of nonsense. Lamborghini usually names its cars after Spanish fighting bulls or words to do with bullfighting. Murcielago and Gallardo were names of famous bulls, and Miura was a breed of bull. They also had a car called the Espada, which was a type of sword used in bullfighting, but the Countach was a bit different. When Lamborghini were designing the car, one of the engineers kept saying Countach whenever he saw it. Now, the word Countach actually comes from a northern Italian dialect, and directly translated, it means plague. But actually, it's used in slang to mean wow. I mean, imagine if we went around going, plague, or we went, it's car plague. Welcome to car plague. Anyway, all you need to know is that Countach translates roughly to wow. The word Countach actually became the catchphrase for the whole project, and in the end, Lamborghini just decided to name the car after it. And thank God they did, because it's one of the coolest car names ever in the world. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. Also, comment below any kind of other videos you'd like us to do. If you want to watch some more videos, click on the windows there. And if you click on the box, you can download the carwow app. It's completely free. You can use it to browse all our reviews and see how much money we can save you on a new car. On average, we can save £3,600. That's right. Also, it has a special number plate reader, so you can scan any car's number plate and it'll tell you how much that car is currently worth. Download it, it's completely free.